Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
Today's guest has spent over 25 years in medicine, starting in traditional women's health, and then building her practice around something most doctors don't talk about enough: getting to the root cause. She's a certified physician assistant, an advanced BHRT specialist, a brain health coach, and the founder of Evo Youthful Med Spa and Longevity Clinic in Wayzata, Minnesota. She went through her own health journey that completely changed her approach to patient care. And today, she's sharing all of it with us.
Our guest today is Elizabeth Vogstrom, and we're going to talk to her about aesthetic medicine, which is something I don't know anything about. Tell me what you do.
Yeah.
Because I went to your website and there's a lot of information.
Thank you, Leah. So I'm a certified physician assistant. I've been a PA for 26 years. The first 4 years I did traditional medicine. I did family practice women's health from 2000 to 2004. And then I had a friend who owned a laser company that wanted to open up a med spa. And I had never heard of a med spa. They said, I'm going to teach you everything from Botox fillers, lasers. And if you don't like it or it's not your cup of tea, you can go right back into women's health. So in 2004, I learned all about Botox fillers, laser hair removal, laser tattoo removal. I learned everything you wanted to know about those things. And that was back in 2004. And that was a lot of the aesthetic medicine. And then later on, I was really into helping people look and feel their best from the inside out. So I ended up doing more longevity medicine where I take your blood and I look at bioidentical hormones. I look at DNA genetic testing. We look at autoimmune diseases, ADD, ADHD, but we look at root cause medicine on natural remedies that gets to the root cause without a lot of significant side effects. And a lot of devices that we have are all health and wellness based. So we have like an Exomine that helps with anxiety without medications and different things like that. So a lot of aesthetics, med spa, and then longevity medicine to help people get to root causes in their health and wellness journey.
There's a
Wow.
lot. And one of the other things I saw on your website was about muscles.
Yep. So longevity medicine is lean muscle mass. So the more lean muscle mass we have, the more longevity that we will attain. So if you look at as we age, we get more visceral adipose tissue, which can increase the risk for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. So we do a lot of bioidentical hormones, and all hormones decline in all people as we age, usually in our 40s and 50s. So we check blood levels to check your levels, and we use all bioidentical. That's all plant-based. So they're all the exact molecular structure your body gives off. And we optimize and kind of put your hormones back to when you're in your 30s, when you looked and felt your best. Before you had sleep issues, waking up, hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, anxiety, weight gain, low libido, mood changes. I take a lot of patients off their anti-anxieties because we will also prescribe testosterone, which is an all-natural anti-anxiety antidepressant for men and women over the age of 40 and 50. So really natural things that help you with mood and sleep and a lot of things, focus, concentration.
There's a lot. There's so much to unpack here. So,
Yeah, there is. You tell me what most interests
but,
you, and then I can focus
oh
on
my
that.
God. So it seems to me, do you do something that's like a Dutch test
So
to
there
test
are
people's
there are
hormones?
Dutch tests. Yep, you could do Dutch
Okay.
tests. I usually will do just blood testing, and then I look at all your hormones, whether male menopause is andropause, called andropause. Female is obviously the menopause, but then we also look at perimenopause, which is women 2 to 5 years prior to going into menopause. That's no man's land, and that's when women really need me the most because
Mm.
there's a lot of fluctuation in hormones and moods and sleep and anxiety and weight gain. And yeah, so I help navigate you through that process.
my.
Wow. That's a
There's
lot. I mean, I'm still like, wow, there's a lot there really is a lot to unpack.
there really is. It seems to me that you could go broke fixing everything that's wrong with you. Am I wrong?
Well, I think the biggest thing is foundation. Like, what is it I look at your quality of life. So I look at, okay, we're all given amazing skills, talents, and abilities to be a blessing to others. But if we can't sleep, if we have high anxiety, if we have, mood issues, how can you get outside of yourself to be blessed to be a blessing? So my biggest thing is foundational. I look at mood, sleep, focus, concentration, brain cognition, all of those different things, energy, fatigue, joint pain. So, all of those things that you can operate in your best self to help others. And so that's the main thing that I look at. And then out of there, yes, you can do other things to help you look and feel your best, but it's really internal. You know what I mean?
So there are a lot of things that you can do before we get to microneedling.
Before you get to
Microneedling.
agreed, agreed. I'd say, it's like when you when you feel better, then it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if you look beautiful, but you feel like crap and you don't want to leave the house and you can't, what I mean? It doesn't matter. Let's get to the root cause. How's your mood? How's your energy? How's your sleep? That's what matters the most. And then all the other stuff is icing on the cake. That's just a byproduct of when you feel your best and different things like that.
Okay. So you did the training, but you had to do a great deal of training before this to become a physician's assistant. What has been the biggest leap for you? What has been the hardest to master?
Well, I think the biggest thing was I started off in women's health. I did a lot of like yearly PAPS physicals, did a lot of preventative medicine, and then broke off into aesthetic medicine. And then I had 3 babies in less than 3 years. And the day I delivered, I spiraled into severe anxiety and insomnia. And traditional medicine that I was trained to do, no one was being malicious. None of the sleeping pills, none of the anti anxiety medications helped. And I ate clean. I worked out. I did all the right things, but I couldn't sleep and nothing helped. And I have a very strong faith. And I remember getting down on my knees and I said, God, if you help me figure out why this is happening to me, I swear I'll be a blessing to your children. Doors started opening years later, and your test becomes your testimony. And had I not gone through what I had gone through, I wouldn't be here on the other side of this so passionately trying to help people because I was trained when you go through menopause back in 2000, you give them Prozac. You know what I mean? Like now
Mm.
things have, the pendulum has swung, but that was a training I had. And because that's the first training you have, that's gospel. Well, no, because I'm living proof of I tried doing traditional medicine. They weren't being malicious, but that was a band-aid and that's not root cause medicine. So I had to go through my own journey. I also started doing DNA genetic testing because I found out I had more of the hyper focus. And I didn't want to go on Adderall or anything like that for ADHD hyperfocus. So once again, then I had to learn all about like methylation products, methyl B12, methylfolate that raises dopamine levels naturally without having to go to on Adderall, which if taken long term is kind of like liquid cocaine. And we have to look at natural things that, if we need to be on it, that's fine. But there's a percentage that we can be on natural supplements before we go all the way in on Adderall and all that. So my biggest thing is looking at the patient as a whole individually. What is it, your top 3, 5 things that came in that's affecting your quality of life? And how do we, whether looking at DNA genetic saliva testing or looking at your hormones or both, how do we get to root cause medicine and figure out how do we optimize levels to get you feeling your best? So you can go out there and be your best self to other people. So a lot of it was my own trials.
Yeah.
So it seems like you had postpartum.
Postpartum anxiety and insomnia. I didn't have depression, I just couldn't sleep. The day I delivered, I just couldn't
Mm.
sleep, and I had anxiety, and the traditional medicine, it just the medication didn't work. It only usually works in 30 to 40% of patients, and it just didn't work for me. So I did blood testing and I had really low progesterone levels. And progesterone helped me fall asleep, stay asleep. It's like all natural ashwagandha, L-theanine, and when I worked with a compounding pharmacist, he was getting a lot of his patients off of Xanax, which increases your risk for, Alzheimer's dementia, and so he was giving high dose liquid progesterone to taper off. So I learned a lot years ago about these natural things because it lowers cortisol, and so cortisol is usually what wakes us up in the middle of the night. So the first hormone we lose when we're under stress is progesterone, so I usually do that for my patients. And the first mineral we lose when we're under stress is magnesium glycinate. So I pair those together at bedtime to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
Wow. So menopause has become really a part of the conversation in a way it wasn't even a year ago. Like, I feel like you see people on talk shows and you see everyone's talking about menopause, talking about perimenopause. Is that a good or bad thing?
It's a good thing because, we look at, when you go through menopause, you lose vital estradiol. Estradiol is your youthful hormone. And estradiol helps to protect the brain from Alzheimer's dementia, your bones against osteoporosis, your heart against heart disease. It helps with vaginal dryness. It helps with fine lines and wrinkles. It helps with hot flashes, mood, insulin resistance. So, all that midsection weight gain around our midsection in our belly, estradiol works like a GLP-1. So, it helps with that, 10 to 15 pounds. I just went into menopause and the OBGYN say, you're just getting older, you have to deal with it. Well, wait a minute, if we give back that vital estradiol at the proper dosages, and we're monitoring levels and checking the patients, like literally we can pull people from osteoporosis into osteopenia into normal. We can help people with that midsection weight gain because all that midsection weight gain is going to increase your risk for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. So, yes, you want to look better. That's great. But more importantly, preventing these chronic healthcare diseases.
I guess my question is, it seems like everybody that has a book, has a supplement, they're all
Mhm.
different. They're all it's like, there's a lot of contrasting messaging. So, is there a downside to people talking about menopause and sort of I think some of the people are, giving you some version of not great ideas.
I think with mine, I bet I'm 51 years old and I went through menopause at age 49. I gained
Mm.
18 pounds in my midsection. I had sleep issues. I had hot flashes and different things. I also have osteopenia because I have small bones. And so I chose to do it for all of the health reasons. So I'm trying to help pull my osteopenia into normal. And you want your estradiol levels to be between 50 and 100 in order to optimize that. So I look at the medicine, I look at the clinical studies behind it. So that's where I look at it. So, and I trained under Dr. Neil Rousier, and you may want to check out his book, How to Achieve Healthy Aging. He's got all the clinical studies to support everything he does. So that's what I love is it's like, yeah, people can say a lot of things, but look at the clinical studies. Look at what's supporting it is what I look at.
Yeah, there are a lot of people I think don't have there are some people who are doctors, and like you said, you're a physician's assistant, you trained with a doctor, but there are people who are actors, and I'm like,
Mm.
"You don't have any experience other than you went through menopause, and you're writing a book, and you're selling supplements, and you're doing all the things." So, how do you get your message out that, "Hey, this is what we need to do. Let's focus."
Well, what was interesting is this, like I said, is when it back in, so 2000 to 2004 is when I was in traditional medicine doing PEPs, physicals, preventative medicine. 2004 is when I broke into the aesthetic med spa and I was taking care of everyone's Botox fillers, all of that. And they got to be close patients of mine. And they would say, Elizabeth, what do you do for sleep? Elizabeth, what do you do for mood, energy? Because they're trusting you with their face. And that's when it kind of ended up being more of like, hey, here's my advanced training. Here's what I do. Here's what's been helping me natural root cause medicine. And so it just converted into that as the patients kind of went through perimenopause, menopause, different struggles. And really, it just kind of the patient started feeling a lot better. And then it was just like they started referring their husband or their friends. And like I said, I've been doing this 13, 14 years. So that's great that the pendulum swung a year ago and everyone's writing books and everyone's in menopause. I was doing it when everyone thought I had a third eye. And no one was on the bandwagon for it. They were thinking I was increasing your risk for breast cancer. So I was in it years
Right.
ago, years ago when this wasn't in favor. So this isn't my first rodeo. This isn't new. This is what I've been living for 13, 14 years, taking care of hundreds and thousands of patients with this, you know. It's just now getting the attention of, oh wow, you know, looking at the studies and the different things we were missing. And like with anything, it's just, knowing the studies, knowing the levels, listening to the patient. Everyone's an individual snowflake and looking at what's right for each individual patient. There's no one size fits all.
So it's good everyone is paying attention, thankfully, but what's the next thing that needs to happen? Because I still think there's probably a lot that we aren't paying attention to.
Well, I think the first thing what I normally do when patients are calling in and they were referred by their best friend who's feeling a lot better after being on this for a year or two. They've been thinking about it, they've been reading about it, they've been hearing a lot of things, but they just don't know. Is I start with their blood work, which is like a 6 page of elite lab panel. And so I do that. Then 2 weeks later, we sit down together for an hour, hour and 15 minutes. I say, please bring a notebook, please bring a pen, bring in all your supplements. We're going to go from your head to your heart. And we're going to go over this and do a comprehensive care plan looking at your specific lab levels, your specific symptoms, and creating a care plan based on that, whether they're perimenopause, menopause, andropause. And some patients, they look great. It's like you just need a couple supplements and let's recheck you in a year from now. Not everyone, you're not a no, you're a not yet. And it just depends on where you're at. You know what I mean?
What is andropause? That's
That's
the
male
male
menopause. That's
male
male menopause. Yep.
I had to tell my husband.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. So, most patients, I take it right now, are probably women. Are you seeing a lot of men sort of like entering into this space? Because, again, I think most people think of traditional medicine first, and this is outside of that. Um, what are you seeing in terms of like mix of patients?
Yeah, I would probably say a lot of the times I either get the husband and then the husband refers in the wife or vice versa. So I do a lot of
Mm,
husbands and wives together. And then I would say the ratio probably for me is 65 female, 35 male.
that's pretty
But I've
good.
been doing this for a long time. So this isn't,
Yeah.
new for me. It's just all like word of mouth is basically what I do.
And I don't, I imagine this isn't paid by insurance.
Um,
Um,
you know,
or is it?
Well, I think sometimes, depending on your insurance, sometimes the estradiol and the progesterone can be, depending on your insurance
Right.
carrier. And sometimes the HSAs and different things can. I know that testosterone is not covered unless you have low T as the male. But the problem is like a lot of like urologists will refer patients to me and they're like, Elizabeth, they have all the symptoms, but their lab number doesn't support. So now they can't prescribe. And since I started 13, 14 years ago, that total testosterone level for low T has gone from 350, 325, 300, 292 to 262. So it keeps lowering. So it's like you have to be lower and lower and lower in order for insurance to pay for this. So a lot of
Mm.
urologists will refer to me saying, hey, they have all the symptoms, but their number doesn't correlate. Can you help them? And so I will take care of them based on fatigue, joint pain, mood, energy, libido, different things like that, joint pain, all of that.
So it seems like there's a couple of problems. We have people who are throwing wacky supplements that maybe are not effective, and then we have insurance. Like, what do you think is the biggest problem?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you need to see someone who is certified in this and has been doing this for years and that has a track record of taking care of patients. And I always tell patients this isn't like Botox that within 2 weeks you're going to get results. This is one full calendar year. It took you X amount of years to get you to where you're at. Let's work together and let's partner together. But in one full calendar year, you tell me whether or not this is worth your time and finances. And if it's not, then stop doing it. But what if I can help you 20%, 40%, 60% based on the symptoms related to your hormones or that. If someone's got Lyme's disease, I'm not your provider. I specialize in hormones. I also specialize in DNA genetic supplements, mainly looking at inflammation, looking at detox pathways, looking at methylation, which is all ADD, ADHD, and looking at neurotransmitters. So that's my wheelhouse. And I stay within my wheelhouse because that's what I know really well. And what I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know very well, and I'll refer to someone who does, because you can't be good at everything. And we're always learning and growing. We're always a student.
Do you have a case that you're most proud of that you were able to actually figure out and, give a solution?
Well, I had one of my patients is actually an OBGYN, and she referred her patient who was actually in the mental ward. And she said, I know it's her hormones, but I don't know how to help her. And she came to me and we looked at all of her symptoms, looked at all of her labs. I optimized her thyroid. I optimized all of her hormones. And within 3 to 6 months, she was a completely different human being. But she was diagnosed with all these diagnoses, put on medications, labeled, side effects on different things. And if you don't get help before you go down that rabbit hole, you can have issues. So that was probably one of the most nearest and dear to my heart. So yes, she's doing great now. And yeah, it was, it was pretty amazing, remarkable to watch and see that
Did you get any
transformation.
kind of pushback from the people who had prescribed her things or from her herself, you know, when
No,
you tried it?
she just didn't feel herself, and a lot of times, no one's being malicious. I mean, when I started in traditional medicine, I was trained, if patients have this, do this, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And so, like I said, when patients had hot flashes back in 2000, I was prescribing Prozac. That's You have a hot flash, you do that.
Mhm.
But then now, years later, we know that a lack of estradiol, your youthful estrogen, causes hot flashes. So that's one of the symptoms. So now let's get to root cause medicine. And I think traditional medicine does a lot of amazing, wonderful things, but it's just not a one size fits all. So it's looking at, okay, can we look at different things? If you have sleep issues, instead of being on Ambien and Xanax that increase your risk for Alzheimer's dementia, can we look at something that's more natural that'll help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and actually be good for you? Progesterone actually is apoptotic to breast cancer cells and actually lowers your risk of breast cancer, the plant-based. So those are the things that we don't realize, and we don't know enough about. And so it is interesting. It's like a foreign language to other people, but had I not gone through what I went through, at age 38 is when I started on progesterone and testosterone. Mine were both in the tank. Now, I don't normally wouldn't recommend that till 40 or older, but the testosterone totally helped me with my mood. Progesterone totally helped me fall asleep, stay asleep. And I'm 51. And now, since going through menopause, I added in the estradiol, and then also, based on DNA genetic testing, had a lot of inflammation in the body, which leads to autoimmune disease and cancer. So I also use low dose naltrexone in a microdose. And a lot of functional medicine doctors will use that to lower inflammation in the body to prevent getting more and more autoimmune diseases. So I've helped a lot of people go into remission with that. And so that's been huge. Also, looking at insulin resistance, helping patients with that as well. So lowering risk for type 2 diabetes. So I feel very grateful and blessed to be able to do what I do, because I do feel like, yes, it's great that you can help people look better. That's wonderful. But more importantly, are you making a positive impact in their quality of life and how they're raising their family, their relationships with their husband, their relationships with that's truly what matters the most.
What's interesting to me, I don't really know why this has happened. So the people who are going through menopause right now are Gen X, which is the overlooked generation, which no one notices or yeah, everyone says millennials, boomers, and they skip this completely. But that's who this is impacting. So why do you think everyone's waking up to this right now?
I don't know if it was after COVID. I don't know if I don't know. where I'm not sure why it is, but it's fascinating. I love that I've had, the 13-year background of this foundationally has been huge, but now it's like everyone and their brother, it's like the pendulum swung, but I don't know. I don't what do you guys think? What do you guys think the reason is for that?
That's a good question because I'm like, I got some sort of survey on LinkedIn and it was like Gen Z, millennial, boomer, and just skipped over Gen X completely because nobody pays attention and we're the smallest generation. I was like, but this is who it's impacting. These are the people who are going through menopause right now, are Gen X. So no one's paying attention to Gen X, but suddenly we're having a conversation about menopause, which we have not had and have needed to have in the public forum for how long?
100%.
But
100%.
but I think it's partially because some of the Gen X folks that are the celebrities right now who are going through it are the ones that are raising the
Yeah,
issue.
my family
I think
was.
I've seen things from Halle Berry, I've seen things from Brooke Shields. I mean, these are all folks that are part of the Gen X, but I agree. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, Leanne's a Gen Xer. I mean, we totally get it because we see it all the time. But I do think that a lot of it has to do more with certain individuals going through it at the moment and being able to raise it because they have a platform to do it on like social media and stuff like that. So it's getting picked up. I think that's part of it.
Agreed.
But I'm just sort of curious because, you went through a lot of schooling
Mhm.
and there's a lot to learn either from, traditional medicine all the way through all the stuff that you had to learn for the med spa. What are the top skills for somebody who's interested in entering this field? What should they know to be studying or be good at?
Well, I would say if you're looking at bioidentical hormones, it's endocrinology, is
Mm,
understanding hormones.
Mm.
Like, I think that, early on it was like, oh, we own a med spa. We do Botox fillers and lasers. Let's add hormones. How about please don't add hormones unless you literally have a passion for hormones, you have a passion for helping people. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of education, it's a lot of work. Botox and fillers is a lot easier to do than, you have to truly be empathetic, care about the individual, and truly know, endocrinology and understand what you're doing because when you mess with people's hormones, you can mess them up, good, bad, or indifferent. You better know what you're
Mm.
doing.
yeah.
Yeah. So advanced training courses, I think, I went through WorldLink Medical for my training. It took me 2 or 3 years past my PA training, which is 7 years. You know what I mean? And then also I did brain health coach certification through Dr. Daniel Amen Clinics, who's a psychiatrist. So I've done brain health certification. I've also looked at DNA genetics to support patients with ADD and ADHD. So it's just kind of like I just love to learn. I'm forever a student,
Mm.
and my patients teach me so much, and we just kinda help share. I think life's tough enough as it is, so our goal is to share knowledge to help people at whatever stage they're in?
So we always ask this of everyone that comes to our podcast, but what would you tell your younger self?
I would say knowledge is power, and always, always constantly grow, learn. You're forever a student. When you think you know everything is when you should get out of the industry. So I think, just always growing and learning, staying humble, and, you know, be blessed to be a blessing to other people.
Love that. Well, it's been really good to talk to Elizabeth today, and thank you so much for telling us about and your tell me the name of your business,
It's
and it's in Minnesota.
Yep. So it's Evo Youthful, which just stands for Evolve Youthfully Med Spa and Longevity Clinic. It's in Wayzata, Minnesota.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. It was great to meet you, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you both.
So that was interesting.
Yeah? Oh,
I
why did you think it was so interesting? Because I have my own thoughts.
I'm because I wanna sign up.
You wanna sign up? What would you have done? She talked about a lot of things, mostly although
Right.
the one thing I didn't really understand as well about this type of medicine or services is
Mhm.
the bioidentical hormone therapy. I'd never heard of that before.
Um, and that's basically we're getting hormones,
Yeah, I guess you're right.
bioidentical is just something they slap on the front,
Uh,
which is apparently important, but you do want something that's bioidentical, but if you're getting something from a doctor's office, it is.
some of these places may not necessarily be as reputable, right? Like some of them can only do injections like Botox and
Yeah.
microderm or derm fillers or whatever those might be. But I think it was interesting to find out that she had been a physician's assistant and then you have to become certified to actually perform these services. So when I think about the additional services she was offering and this idea of longevity, which, by the way, is a very big business and growing. Because the business is growing, it's also growing in terms of the number of people they're looking to do this kind of work. And I mean, you actually have to have some degrees. Yeah, I mean, you have to have experience. I looked it up and saw that not only do you need a bachelor's degree in healthcare or related field, but you also have to have a master's degree. You have to have
Yeah.
patient care experience. So it's a
Yeah.
serious business.
Yeah, and it helped for her to have worked in a doctor's office and have been a physician's assistant.
Yeah, I think so too. It definitely helped. I mean, they pay really well. You're
Oh,
talking
yes, it
about on
did.
average, $133,000 a year, but you could
Yeah.
make over 200,000 plus commission.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's growing so much. That's why, you know, there's a demand for the product.
Well, everybody wants to look young, right? And
Yeah,
and if you live in a city like Los Angeles, everybody is looking to look really
yeah,
young. But the one thing I did find that interesting, as I was doing the research is some of the trade-offs. While it's rewarding in that, you help people transform and that it has a flexible schedule, the the thing is that some of the places, there's sort of like a sales dynamic to it. So
yeah.
you're kind of like a salesperson, you're like trying to get people to like do all these things. And
Mhm.
then some of the independent medical spas are kind of maybe shady,
Yeah,
possibly, in
it's
that so
us.
if you get a job with one of them, that you have to really understand sort of their practices because
Uh,
they may have, like, predatory commission models
yeah,
or have strict non-compete clauses, so then you go to work for them and you can't work for somebody else.
yeah. And, whoever looks at your resume is going to think you're sus too, so,
That's true if you wanna go someplace else. But
yeah.
it is definitely a huge business projected to exceed $25 billion by 2028 and a 20% increase in the number of jobs.
Yep,
20%.
that's a good job outlook.
So I think if you're looking for something to help people out and you are a lifelong learner, I think Elizabeth really stressed that is that you're constantly having to learn stuff. If you already know everything, then you need to get out because
Mm,
there's always
yeah,
something new to learn. So it opened my eyes for sure around what kind of things physician assistants can do. So they're not just in a doctor's office doing injections for vaccines and stuff. So pretty cool.
Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.